So this video is going to be a top 5 video, and this top 5 video will be top 5 reasons the Oppressor Mark 1 is more overpowered than the Oppressor Mark 2. And the Oppressor Mark 1 is definitely more overpowered than the Oppressor Mark 2, because the Oppressor Mark 2 was nerfed and has a cooldown, and even if you try to call it for a mechanic, it still has a cooldown of 5 minutes, unlike the Oppressor Mark 1, which can instantly be spawned with the MC menu, like the Oppressor Mark 2 was able to back then. And that's what's so unfair about the Oppressor Mark 2 and the Oppressor Mark 1. The Oppressor Mark 2 is more expensive than the Oppressor Mark 1, but the Oppressor Mark 2 has a cooldown, but the Oppressor Mark 1 doesn't. And the Oppressor Mark 2 is the vehicle that's supposed to have the advantage. So why is the Oppressor Mark 2 actually not as powered as the Oppressor Mark 1? And why can you request the Oppressor Mark 1 more than the Oppressor Mark 2? It's not fair. And the Oppressor Mark 1 is just as powered, if not more powered, than the Oppressor Mark 2. Because the Oppressor Mark 1 has insane tracking on their missiles, and since it doesn't have a cooldown, the Oppressor Mark 1 user can just use as many missiles as they want to. Because if they run out of missiles, they can just request another one, unlike the Oppressor Mark 2, where you have to wait 5 minutes. And that's not the only thing that makes the Oppressor Mark 1 more overpowered. What makes the Oppressor Mark 1 more overpowered is the fact that it has better boost, better agility, and is faster. And the boost is way better, which makes it faster. It's already faster than the Oppressor Mark 2, even when not using the boost. And the Oppressor Mark 2 doesn't even have a good boost. The only thing that's better about the Oppressor Mark 2 than the Oppressor Mark 1 is that the Oppressor Mark 2 has chaff. That's the only thing I can think of. Other than that, the Oppressor Mark 1 is more overpowered. And the reason I don't use it instead of the Oppressor Mark 2 is because you have to do research to unlock missiles, which no one has time for that in 2020, because there's insane competition in the city, and I have to attend to it, and I have to do my duties and destroy cargo. Because if I don't do it, then Los Santos is going to be flooded with drugs, and everyone's going to become drug addicts, and I can't allow that. So I need to destroy cargo. So yeah, I use the Oppressor Mark 2. But the problem is, the Oppressor Mark 2 is a 5-minute cooldown, so sometimes I use different vehicles. And I like using different vehicles anyway, but sometimes I use different vehicles because I can't request the Oppressor Mark 2 if it gets destroyed by some salty grinder on a power trip using the orbital cannon, or a jet, or an Oppressor Mark 2, or if I get ganged up on by Oppressor Mark 2s, and I can't fight them off. Usually, when I'm fighting an Oppressor Mark 2 with my Oppressor Mark 2, I always win, but when I'm being ganged up on, or usually, even if I do win and fight them all off, they all teleport to their facility and use the orbital cannon. And then I can't use the Oppressor Mark 2. But if I was using the Oppressor Mark 1, then I could just request it instantly. The other day I was fighting an Oppressor Mark 1 when I was trying to destroy cargo. I was in a buzzer going after cargo, and Oppressor Mark 1 came after me, and I destroyed the Oppressor Mark 1 with my buzzard, which is very hard to do because the Oppressor Mark 1 has better missiles, and the buzzard has a cooldown on the missiles, and the buzzard missiles aren't as good. So when I'm fighting the Oppressor Mark 1, I manage to destroy him, and then 30 seconds later he's back on the Oppressor Mark 1 and he's going after me once again. And then he destroys my buzzard and I jump out of it, and then I chase the cargo on foot. And luckily I do destroy it, but the Oppressor Mark 1 is very annoying because he kept requesting it over and over and over again, and I was destroying it. I destroyed it another time, and you get bad sport points, and the entrance fee is the exact same as is with the Oppressor Mark 2. In fact, the Oppressor Mark 1 used to have a $20,000 insurance fee for destroying it, but the Oppressor Mark 2 never had that. So anyway, number 5, it is faster when using the boost, and the boost makes it really fast, unlike the Oppressor Mark 2. The Oppressor Mark 2 doesn't have a good boost, and you have to come to a complete stop before using the boost again on the Oppressor Mark 2, unlike the Oppressor Mark 1, which just has like a slight cooldown, and you can keep going and boosting. So that makes it faster, and even without the boost, the Oppressor Mark 1 is faster than the Oppressor Mark 2, and even after they buffed the speed on the Oppressor Mark 2 because it was way too slow, it was actually slower than the buzzard, not the buzzard, but the Deluxo, whenever it first came out. The Oppressor Mark II went like 85 miles an hour, and the Deluxo went like 88 miles an hour. So it was slower than the Deluxo, and the Deluxo is insanely slow. Because usually when I'm in the Deluxo, I would use the Deluxo more often if it wasn't so slow. That's the only reason the Oppressor Mark II is better than the Deluxo. It has chaff and it's faster. But not as fast as the Oppressor Mark I. The Oppressor Mark I, when you're boosting, it can go almost as fast as the Oppressor Mark II when it had the speed glitch, and Rockstar decided to patch that, unfortunately, because the speed glitch really helped us Oppressor Mark II users usually cargo. But when they patched that, luckily Rockstar buffed the speed of it, which kinda made up for it, but not really. Because instead of the Oppressor Mark II going 85 miles an hour, they buffed it to like 108 miles an hour. I mean, that was a good buff, but it was so unfortunate they took away the speed glitch, because the speed glitch with the Oppressor Mark II, you're able to go up to 180 miles an hour when using it. In any time I was using the Oppressor Mark II before they patched the speed glitch, I always made it to cargo. And they never made it before I get there, because usually cargo makes it if I don't recognize it in time. Because like if I'm joining a session and then I join in the session and someone's in the middle of a cargo cell, then usually they make it before I can get to them. All because Rockstar patched the speed glitch with the Oppressor Mark II. And they did that like 2 years ago, so I'm pretty much used to it now. But when they first patched the speed glitch with the Oppressor Mark II, I hate it almost just as much as I hate it whenever Rockstar put a 5-minute cooldown on the Oppressor Mark II. The Arena War update and the Casino Heist DLC was two of the worst updates. The only good thing they did with the Arena War update is they buffed the speed on the Oppressor Mark II, but I always use speed glitch because, you know, it helped me for showing cargo. But the good thing about them buffing the speed is I can just go 108 miles an hour without having to do the glitch, because the glitch you did have to press more buttons and rock up and down, but that was easy to do. But it's still better just being able to go. What they should have done was buffed it to 180 miles an hour without having to do a glitch, because it wasn't fair, because the Oppressor Mark II needs to be fast because it's the Oppressor Mark II, so it should be faster than the Oppressor Mark I. But the Oppressor Mark I is faster with and without the boost, and the Oppressor Mark II boost sucks and doesn't even make it go faster. Number 4 is a smaller target than the Mark II, and when you're in a jet or on the ground trying to use sticky bombs or shoot them off, then the Oppressor Mark I is way harder to shoot the user off than it is with the Oppressor Mark II. The Oppressor Mark II, it's bigger and it's slower and it hovers in the air, and it gives the person trying to shoot you off more time, and they can see better than they can with the Oppressor Mark I, because the Oppressor Mark I is faster, has better agility, and it can do faster dive bombs when you're on the ground or trying to shoot them off. So usually the Oppressor Mark I can just dive bomb you, and even if you do shoot the Oppressor Mark I user off, you know what they can do? Just request another one. But if you shoot an Oppressor Mark II user off, which is way easier to do, then the Oppressor Mark II user usually have to wait 5 minutes before they can call on their Oppressor. Number 3, it has no cooldown, unlike the Oppressor Mark II. So the Oppressor Mark I has no cooldown, and you can call it for the mechanic. And the Oppressor Mark II even has a cooldown, longer cooldown than the other vehicles have for the mechanic. The mechanic cooldown is 2 minutes, but the Oppressor Mark II cooldown for the mechanic is 5 minutes. And it's 5 minutes for the NC menu. But the Oppressor Mark I, you can just call it in as many times as you want to. So it's more overpowered that way because it's more valuable than the Oppressor Mark II. Number 3, or not number 3, but number 2, it can do faster dive bombs. And what I mean by this is when an Oppressor Mark I is in the air and you're on the ground, the Oppressor Mark I can come down really fast and just shoot a missile at you. Kind of like the Pyro, but the Oppressor Mark I, it can be closer to you, and it takes more skill with the Pyro than it does with the Oppressor Mark I, because all you have to do is, with the Oppressor Mark I is just boost up in the air and then go down. But the Oppressor Mark II, you have to position yourself in the air and then get a good vantage point where you can shoot the missile, and by that time they can shoot you off. And it's not really fair because the Oppressor Mark II it can be destroyed by RPGs, up and atomizer, and it's way harder to shoot an Oppressor Mark 1 with an RPG or an up and atomizer than is an Oppressor Mark 2. Because I've destroyed a lot of Oppressor Mark 2 users using the up and atomizer and RPGs. Like, I free aim RPGs at Oppressor Mark 2s when I'm on the ground, and I can also blow them up with sticky bombs. With the Oppressor Mark 1, you can't really blow it up as well as you can with the Oppressor Mark 2 when you're using sticky bombs, because, like I said, the Oppressor Mark 1 can do faster dive bombs. And it can nose dive down and just shoot a missile before you even have time to react. So your reaction time is more advanced, because when you're fighting an Oppressor Mark 2, you can shoot them off, you can use RPGs, up and imasters, and like I said, once you do shoot them off or destroy them in the air, because even if you just shoot them off, you can destroy it right after, and then they have to wait 5 minutes. But if you do it to an Oppressor Mark 1, then they don't have to wait. All they have to do is call War Mutual and then request it again. Number 1, it has wheels, allowing it to be overpowered even on the ground. It's a ground vehicle and air vehicle, so you can shoot missiles when you're on the ground. I mean, you can with the Oppressor Mark 2, but it hovers, it doesn't drive on the ground. And you can boost up in the air, making it go up higher than you could with the Oppressor Mark 2. And it goes up quicker than you can with the Oppressor Mark 2, because with the Oppressor Mark 2 you can make your way up there. And the missiles are just as good. And like I said, you have more missiles that you can spare, because the Oppressor Mark 2 you can only have 20 missiles, and then you have to wait 5 minutes before you can get more. But the Oppressor Mark 1, you can keep calling in over and over and over again, so you pretty much have unlimited missiles. I mean, yeah, you have 20 missiles, but when you run out, all you have to do is drive it on the ground. And like I said, you maybe already use it as a ground vehicle, unlike the Oppressor Mark 2. So you can just get off it, return it to storage, and then request it again, unlike the Oppressor Mark 2. The Oppressor Mark 2, you're usually flying in the air, unlike the Oppressor Mark 1. So the Oppressor Mark 2 has to fly all the way down to the road and then park it, and then if you're lucky, then you can request it. But usually it's 5-minute cooldown if you just recently had destroyed, or you just requested it and you're just using it. So I really think the Oppressor Mark 1 needs nerfed and the Oppressor Mark 2 needs buffed. The Oppressor Mark 2 should have no cooldown, and the Oppressor Mark 1 should have a 5-minute cooldown, because the whole point of the Oppressor Mark 2 is for it to be better than the Oppressor Mark 1. And the Oppressor Mark 1 has been in the game longer than the Oppressor Mark 2, so the Oppressor Mark 1 has done more damage than the Oppressor Mark 2, because everyone acts like the Oppressor Mark 2 is what ruined the game, even though it's only been in the game for like half the time the Oppressor Mark 1 has. The Oppressor Mark 1 has been in the game for almost 4 years, but the Oppressor Mark 2 has been in the game for only 2 years. So the Oppressor Mark 1 has definitely done more damage, and it continues to be able to cause more damage to this day than the Oppressor Mark 2, because the Oppressor Mark 2 has the cooldown. So anyway, that's all for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did, leave a like, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.